If the prayer on your lips is, please take this away, you may be feeding the very thing you wish to be rid of. Do you see that? Because when you plead with God to change an appearance, you are secretly acknowledging its authority over you, and you are reacting to it. And I tell you, faith is measured by reaction. If your prayer rises out of fear, urgency, or self-protection, then the prayer itself is reaction. It keeps you tethered to the very picture you want gone. Which of you, by taking thought, can add 1 cubit unto his stature, says the Master. If taking thought cannot add a cubit, it cannot subtract an anxiety either. Now, let us be clear about this word appearance. An appearance is any claim that parades before you and demands that you fear it, love it, hate it, or hurry to fix it. The moment it makes you hurry, you are in its net. The moment you defend against it or crusade to change it, you have entered its case humanly. Don't do it. Never enter the case humanly. We are on the middle path only when we neither fear, love, nor hate any appearance. That is not indifference. That is spiritual sobriety. Be still and know that I am God. Not be agitated and know that anxiety is master. When you pray from the stance of take this away, what are you believing? You are believing in 2 powers, one called anxiety and a bigger one called God, that you hope will whip it. There are not 2 powers. If you accept 2, you will spend your life trading blows between them and call it spirituality. Don't turn to God to fight anxiety. Don't turn to God for anything. God is not a power to use. God isn't mind. God isn't even soul. Nobody knows what God is. But in the silence beyond your thinking, God is. And where God is as realized presence, the claim cannot hold its ground. Be not afraid. It is I, is the inner announcement. And in that I, the wind drops without your command. You see? Anxiety is not healed by wrestling it. Wrestling strengthens its mask. It is dissolved as the false claim loses authority in the presence of stillness. Our task is not to muscle outcomes. Our task is to refuse reaction, to starve the appearance of our consent until it thins out to nothing. And we do that not with argument and counter-argument, but with silence. There must come for each of us that split second when the argument stops, the monitoring stops, the bargaining stops, and a click so slight you almost miss it announces that the government has shifted. From that instant, you are no longer standing in the weather. You are the sky. The waves may play. You do not consult them for peace. So let me speak plainly and set the stake in the ground. If your praying is an effort to change an appearance, it is reaction, and reaction is the fuel of anxiety. Withdraw the fuel. This kind goeth not out, but by prayer and fasting. Not fasting from food to punish yourself, but fasting from narratives, from forecasts, from self-protection stories. We will come to the how, but mark the direction now. Prayer that does not beg, prayer that does not explain, prayer that does not monitor, silence that waits, 1 honest second if that is all you can bear until presence announces itself. And once you taste that, you will know why we no longer rise in the night to battle shadows. We sit down, we become still, we yield, and the shadow, having no audience, has no stage on which to act. Now, let us set the foundation plainly so there is no confusion later on. Faith is shown by your reaction, not by your words about faith, not by the number of truths you can recite in the night, not by the vigils and the books and the candles, but by the instant in which an appearance knocks and you either bow to it or you stand still in God. Anxiety, then, is not a verdict against you. It is a barometer. It reads, with embarrassing honesty, the degree to which the mind is consenting to an appearance's power. You see that? The needle moves not to shame you, but to tell the truth. Here, right here, you have believed that something other than God governs. Judge not that ye be not judged. Don't judge yourself for the reading. Use the reading to correct the course. If the heart pounds and the breath shortens, do not cry. Where is God? God has not gone anywhere. Let not your heart be troubled. Ye believe in God, believe also in me. The troubling of heart is only the mind announcing, I have made an idol of this picture. I fear it, I love it, or I hate it. And that is the whole of it. The middle path is this: neither fear, love, nor hate any appearance, especially the appearance called my anxiety. The moment you fear anxiety, you have crowned it. The moment you love the little reprieves and make them your savior, you have crowned them. The moment you hate the sensation and fight it, you have crowned the fight. We are sober and we are simple. Don't react to the appearances, not even to the inner weather. Let it play. Refuse it, your consent as power. Take no thought for your life, the Master said. And taking thought to wrestle fear is still taking thought. And because we are thorough, let me touch this point that trips earnest students every day. Intense spiritual talk can be reaction. Whispering, shouting, or chanting 100 truths at a storm is still talking to a storm. He arose and rebuked the wind and said unto the sea, peace, be still. Notice, he did not argue long. He did not build a case. Peace speaks with very few words. Let thy words be few. When you repeat truths to overpower fear, you have accepted fear as something to overpower. You are already in combat with an appearance. You are still trying to change the picture, and so the picture remains your master. Better to let truth speak you in a moment of stillness than to speak truth as a weapon in a quarrel of shadows. All right. How then do we hold ourselves on the middle path without becoming ice? Non-reaction is not suppression. It is not clamping the jaw and pretending nothing is happening. Non-reaction is surrender to a deeper government. The government shall be upon his shoulder. Let it be there. Surrender means we admit the utter uselessness of our self-managed fear reduction, and we yield the case back to principle without entering it humanly. That is not cold, that is warm with trust. Perfect love casteth out fear, not perfect analysis, not perfect self-control. The love that casts out fear is not in the shouting, it is in the yielding. And the yielding comes as we stop taking mental oaths against sensations and quietly, honestly, turn to the presence that cannot be defined and yet governs all. Therefore, when the barometer rises and the mind says, this is bad, fix it, let that be your bell. Don't accuse yourself, don't applaud yourself, don't explain yourself. A bell has rung good. It tells you where your faith is feeding on appearances. Withdraw the feed. Withdraw it not by force, but by that tiny inward pause in which you do not add thought to the picture. One heartbeat of true non-reaction will do more than 1,000 sentences hurled at the air, because in that heartbeat you have ceased to enthrone the claim. According to your faith be it unto you. And your faith, remember, is shown by your reaction. Let the reaction be stillness. Let the stillness be your consent that God, whose nature we do not know and need not name, is the present government. From there, we will move into practice. step by step. But see the foundation now. Anxiety does not prove God absent. It reveals reaction. And so the work before us is not self-accusation, but the sacred art of non-reaction. Never enter the case humanly. Never permit yourself to give human advice to yourself. The moment you begin to manage your own fear, to coach your breath, to schedule your calm, you have already stepped into the courtroom of appearances and put yourself on the witness stand. And who is the judge? The same anxious mind that started the case. The carnal mind is enmity against God, not evil people, not the weather, not the economy. The carnal, problem-solving mind that believes it can secure you by thinking about you. Do you see that? The mind that triggered the alarm now puts on a white coat and says, relax, breathe, measure, check. And so you spend the hours taking your temperature of tranquility. That is not faith. That is self-surveillance. And what you surveil, you inflate. All right? Let's be plain. Analyzing, fixing, and self-managing cannot touch the root, because the root is not in the conditions, nor in the sensations, nor in any story you can tell about them. The root is the consent to an appearance as power. You cannot remove that consent by adding more thinking. Which of you, by taking thought, can add 1 cubit unto his stature? And which of you, by taking many, many thoughts, can subtract a fear? You cannot. The very attempt says, fear is power, and I must master it with superior thought. That is 2 powers. That is idolatry dressed as spirituality. We have all done it. Now we stop. Listen, and let me be tender while I am stern, because I know this by my own bruises. A man in Los Angeles wrote me, I have created a chart of episodes. I mark red on high days, green on good days, and I pray extra on red days so God will give me a green by morning. Do you know he is dear to me? He is every one of us. But that is bargaining with God to rearrange colors on a chart so we can feel safe. That is outcome prayer. If you, then I. The Master did not live by if you, then I. He said, I can of mine own self do nothing. And then he yielded into the Father and let what is called miracle be the unlabored footprint of presence, not by might, nor by power, but by my Spirit, saith the Lord. Your might is your managing, your powers your analyzing, neither can bring in spirit. Nobody by taking thought can contact God. There must come that refusal to enter the case humanly, the dropping of tools, the end of the diagram. Never enter the case humanly. Never permit yourself to give human advice to yourself. Do not tell yourself, this will pass. Stay positive. Imagine a quiet beach, or count backward from 100. Those are not sins. They are just delays. They soothe the surface and keep the root unchallenged. The root is the belief in a self apart from God who must engineer its peace. As long as that engineer is on duty, prayer becomes management in religious clothing. We say, Father, if you calm this heart, I promise to volunteer more, to think better, to be kinder. And we wait for the heart to obey our pact. That is not prayer. That is commerce. Your Father knoweth what things ye have need of before ye ask him. The need is not a changed sensation. The need is God as realized presence. Do not ask God to fix your wind. Be still until it is I stands revealed, and you will find there is no wind that can govern I. We have all fallen into the loop. spike of fear, rush of analysis, ritual of soothing, a brief lull, then a fresh spike, then new monitoring. Am I better? Worse? How much worse? How soon? Better. And the ruler comes out again to measure our spiritual height. Put the ruler away. Don't judge your inner weather by the hour. Don't audit your peace. That is entering the case under another name. The government shall be upon his shoulder. Let it be there. Sit down inside. Be still. And know that I am God. Not be clever. And know that you are winning. Now, do not hear me as scolding you for trying. I am telling you that trying is the problem. We have tried with all our human goodness to save ourselves from our own pictures. Lay it down. Cast thy burden upon the Lord, which means cease taking counsel of your own anxious remedies. If the surge comes, and it will, until it wills, not let it come without a welcoming committee of strategies. Refuse to explain it. Refuse to forecast it. Refuse to fix it. Never enter the case humanly. One inward nod. Father, I yield, and then silence. Even if it is only for a breath, it is honest. It is the first crack in the idol of self-management. And since you will ask, and rightly, if I do not enter the case, what then? When the drums beat in my chest, we take the next step. We will not wrestle a person named me. We will not medicate a soul named mine. We will turn and see that what calls itself my anxiety is a universal belief marching in a personal uniform. Once we see that, the mask slips, the authority drains, and the work begins at the root. But first, you and I agree. No more casework, no more bargains, no more charts. We stop. We yield. We prepare for the impersonal light to do what mental handling never could. All right, now we take the mask off. This is not your anxiety. Do not flatter it with a nameplate on your door. We wrestle not against flesh and blood, Paul says, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world. Not your flesh and not your blood impersonal suggestion, universal belief. World thought parading as you. You see, there is a tide of fear that has circled the globe for ages. Fear of lack, fear of rejection, fear of bodily collapse, fear of tomorrow. It has nothing to do with your character, your past, your goodness, or your badness. It is a fog that moves through the valleys. And when you accept the fog as your own breath, you cough and call it personal. Never do that again. Let us be concrete so you are not left in poetry. The mind says, what if the money runs out and the universal belief in lack puts on your voice? The mind says, what if they do not love me? What if they leave? And the universal belief in rejection steps into your childhood stories and rehearses them for the 100th time. The mind says, what if the body fails? What if the heart stops? And the universal belief in the power of matter to govern life sits in your chest with a drum. The mind says, tomorrow will bring the blow. And the universal belief in a hostile future paints pictures in your sleep. Not one of these is a personal identity. Take, therefore, no thought for the morrow, the master instructs. The morrow belongs not to your calculators, but to God. There is no power but of God, Paul declares. Therefore, lack has no power. Rejection has no law. Collapse has no cause. And tomorrow has no authority to prophesy itself into being. They appear only as we react. And by our reaction, we extend them a lease. Do you see now why we speak of universal belief? Because error without impersonation cannot live. It must borrow your consent, your fear, your love, or your hate to gain a moment's seeming existence. It has no law to support it, no cause to originate it, no continuity except what we donate by believing in it, discussing it, fighting it, or fleeing from it. On the whole, we are not sinners. We are mesmerized. And mesmerism ends when you stop answering to its name. Right here is your practice line: simple, sane, and swift. This has nothing to do with me as a person. This is a universal belief presenting itself. Say it softly, and then refuse the next sentence that wants to explain it. Refuse the argument for and the argument against. Don't enter the case humanly. Withdraw your signature from the contract. I can tell you of a woman in Chicago who wrote me that every evening at 6 o'clock, as the office doors closed, a fear would clamp her chest, and she would run home bargaining with God to make the subway kind. She had charts, she had mantras, she had 3 therapists. None of that touched the root. One night she sat on a bench and remembered, this has nothing to do with me as a person. This is a universal belief presenting itself. She said it once, and then she shut her mouth. No analysis, no counter-charm. A minute later, she called it a click. The air became ordinary air again. Not a victory she had won, but a government she had ceased to resist. Be not afraid. It is I. You see, the presence of I does not argue with the fog. It warms, and the fog is gone. So your work at this stage is not to win against anxiety, not to explain it, not to measure it. Your work is to depersonalize it and so deprive it of your breath. Save a line and then let silence have you. Remember, error is a claim without substance. It is suggestion without law. The instant it is seen as impersonal, it begins to lose its authority, and you are free to do the only effective act left. Cease from concepts and sink into God contact, not thoughts about God, not truths piled upon truths, but that split second of yielded quiet in which I, God, am the life of your being. From there, we do not fight universals. We outgrow them as morning outgrows night. Now we strike at the root of a very pious mistake. Do not turn to God for anything. Do you see that? I do not mean turn away from God. I mean stop using God as a tool to adjust pictures. The moment you invoke God to rearrange a condition, you have admitted the condition as power, and God as a bigger power to come and fight it. That is 2 powers, and 2 powers is idolatry. Thou shalt have no other gods before me is not a stone commandment. It is a law of consciousness. The God of outcomes, the God of changed sensations, the God of make this stop and I will be good. That is a golden calf dressed in prayer clothes. God isn't mind. God isn't even soul. Nobody knows what God is to the reasoning faculty. You cannot diagram God. You cannot bottle God in statements. You cannot mortgage God for a calmer Tuesday. Neither in this mountain, nor yet at Jerusalem, the Master said, but in spirit and in truth. Do you see the shattering kindness in that? It ends our religious machinery so that presence may be realized. Nobody, by taking thought, can contact God, but in silence, God announces itself, and where God is realized, the picture no longer runs the room. This matters deeply in anxiety, because as long as you treat God as a power to fix conditions, the conditions stay central and fear remains the foreman of the job. You pray, take this away. and you secretly stare at the symptom to see if your God has worked yet. The symptom becomes your altar. Then you bargain, if you remove this panic by morning, I'll read an extra chapter, and in the bargaining, you crown the panic. That is why the heart still races after eloquent prayers. The prayer honored the claim. Your Father knoweth what things ye have need of before ye ask him. The need is not a changed appearance. The need is God as realized. Presence. In that realization, the appearance has no jurisdiction. I, God, am the solution to all problems, not because God comes with a wrench, but because in I, the problem cannot maintain identity. A young man from Boston wrote, I pray furiously on the train. Lord, stop this terror. Make my hand steady. Sometimes it eases. Sometimes it doubles. Of course it doubles. You hired God as a security guard for your sensations, and you stayed on the platform of sensation, watching the hands. Prayer became negotiation, and negotiation is still reaction. There is no peace in a contract with fear. No man can serve two masters. If you serve outcomes, you will hate and love them by turns and call that devotion. If you serve presence, outcomes drop to their proper insignificance, and peace enters without price. Then what is prayer? Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. Seeking first is not chasing additions. It is entering God contact where additions are no longer idols. True prayer is not getting, it is awakening. It is not changing a picture. It is seeing through the picture. It is the willingness to sit, to be still, to let the mind's case fall to the floor, and to let that which cannot be named announce itself. 1 honest second will do more than a morning of bargains. Let thy words be few. Go into thy closet. Shut the door on outcome prayer, and wait. When the inner it is I touches you, you will laugh. Not because the hand has stopped shaking on your command, but because in I there is no hand to defend, no train to conquer, no terror with a law behind it. So, yes, be iconoclasts with me. Smash the idol of a usable God. Stop asking God to patch the costume of the dream. Yield into God until God becomes your consciousness of being, and watch how the dream thins of itself, not by might, nor by power, neither by your affirmations nor your vows, but by my spirit. And when, as it will, the anxious claim howls again for attention, let that be the bell for right prayer. Not more words, not better strategies, just this. Father, I yield. And then the sacred discipline of saying nothing. The government shall be upon his shoulder. Let it be there. And you will find that what you thought required a miracle only required the end of an idol. Now we come to the pivot itself, the split second of silence. Not a trance, not an emotion, not a shiver of triumph, but a recognition. I call it a click because it is as slight and as decisive as a latch resting into place. The argument stops. The bargaining stops. The monitoring stops. And there, without fanfare, you are no longer standing in a room full of conditions. You are standing in I. Be still and know that I am God. Not be numb, be still. The stillness is not vacancy, it is presence. It is the cessation of your case and the appearance's case, so that principle can be the only voice in the room. The peace of God, which passeth all understanding, does not pass through your syllables. It passes through your surrender. Let me teach you the micro practice, because it is small and it is everything. When the claim knocks, sensations rise, the mind begins its drum pause. Do not name it. The moment you name it, you have invited the tribe of explanations. Do not predict it. The moment you forecast, you have erected a future to fear. Do not plead with it or with God about it. The moment you plead, you have admitted two powers and made an idol. Pause, and for one honest heartbeat, do nothing. No statements, no counters, no breath techniques. Just a yielded second in which you allow the flaw of self-management to give way, and you consent to be carried by what you cannot describe. Let thy words be few. In that fewness, if only for a wisp of time, the soul hears what Elijah heard, a still small voice, not as language, but as governance. Now, why should 1 second do what an hour of strategies cannot? Because nobody, by taking thought, can contact God. Thought rearranges appearances. It paints the stage. It moves the furniture. It cannot touch the light that makes a stage visible. God contact is not achieved by building a taller ladder of thought. It is realized when thought stops climbing and discovers the ground is already God. I can of mine own self do nothing, the Master said. In the split second of silence, you are agreeing with him. You stop doing, and in the not doing, the presence that is always present is allowed to be what it is. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. The anxious claim cannot maintain jurisdiction in liberty. It has no charter there, no law, no tongue with which to speak. You will know the click, not by fireworks, but by absence. The absence of compulsion to argue, the absence of the fever to check. Sometimes the body is still rattling like a drum, and yet the foreman has left the job. The noise has lost its authority. He maketh wars to cease unto the end of the earth. The war in you ceases not because you won, but because you stopped furnishing an enemy with uniforms. In that instant you may hear inwardly, "Be not afraid, it is I," and you will discover that I requires no proof. I does not consult a pulse. I does not adjust an image. I simply is, and in that isness, pictures cannot rule. All right, practice it precisely. The bell rings good. Pause. Stop naming. Stop predicting. Stop pleading. Let the shoulders drop, not by command, but by lack of a commander. Let the breath come without your coaching. Offer the silent consent. Father, I yield. Then say nothing. 1 second is enough, if it is honest. 2 seconds will come of themselves. Do not count them. Do not evaluate them. Do not ask, did it work? The moment you measure, you have left eye for appearances again. Don't judge your demonstration by the minute. Let the mustard seed do what mustard seeds do. And hear this, because it will save you from discouragement. Silence is not blankness. It is receptivity. In your silence, not in your eloquence, God announces itself. I was told years ago, and I pass it to you as bread. In thy silence I shall come to you, not in your mosaics of beautiful truths, not in your heroic resisting, but in thy silence. Therefore, do not be shocked if the mind objects to this and clamors for control. That is its profession. The mind has lived by naming, predicting, and pleading. It believes survival depends on constant narration. That is why, for many, this split second feels impossible at first. Good. Now you know where the old God sits. We will not argue with it. We will fast it. This kind goeth not out but by prayer and fasting. prayer the yielded second, fasting the withdrawal of all mental feeding that keeps the narration fat. We will take that up next, and you will see how gently, how surely the habit of silence becomes natural, and the claim that screamed immovable becomes a whisper without a mouth. All right, we take up fasting now, not the old hunger of bread and water, but the modern feast you and I have been feeding. Narratives, forecasts, reassurance hunts, and self-protective rituals. Man shall not live by bread alone, and he shall not fast by bread alone. The stomach may be empty while the mind is still eating catastrophes by the platter. This kind mark it well, this kind goeth not out, but by prayer and fasting. Prayer is the yielded second, we have learned. Fasting is withdrawing the food from the mind's mill so that it cannot grind out terror for supper. First, fasting from narratives. Do not tell yourself the story. Do not rehearse how it started, who caused it, what it means about you, what it will prove tomorrow. Let thy words be few. The mind will offer 1,000 chapters. Close the book. When the bell rings, you already know the prayer. Father, I yield. And then fasting begins. Stop the commentary. Every sentence you add is a shovelful of coal into the furnace of reaction. We will not heat the engine. We will let it cool by lack of fuel. Second, fasting from forecasts. Take no thought for the morrow. No what-ifs. No weather reports of doom. No charts of next week's risk. Do not lift your eyes to a future of your own making and then accuse God for not living there with you. The moment you prophesy, you have enthroned a tomorrow and made it your Pharaoh. Withdraw your consent. The government is not in tomorrow. The government shall be upon his shoulder now. Third, fasting from reassurance. That is a bitter herb for modern appetite. I know. No searching the body for signals of catastrophe. No checking the pulse. No scanning the eyes of your loved one to see whether they are displeased. No typing your symptoms into a glowing oracle. No texting 3 friends to ask, am I all right? Your Father knoweth what things ye have need of before ye ask him. He does not need a spreadsheet of your fears. Each reassurance you demand confesses that appearances are law. Each search enlarges the idol. Fast it. Refuse to feed it for this hour, then for the next, without making a splash about it. When ye fast, be not, as the hypocrites, of a sad countenance. Anoint thine head, and wash thy face. Hide your fast from the mind's vanity. Let it be quiet between you and God. Fourth, fasting from self-protection that is merely control and costume. Do not rearrange the furniture to feel saved from a picture. Do not plan an escape route for every room you enter. Do not sit only where you can monitor the door. Do not carry talismans to bribe a sensation. None of these are evil. They are simply tributes laid at the feet of an appearance. Withdraw the tribute. No man can serve 2 masters. If you serve the appearance with ritual, you cannot serve presence with trust. Because you ask for a ladder you can climb, I give you one, and it is mercifully short. Step 1. The bell rings, pause. Father, I yield. And then say nothing for a heartbeat. Step 2. For 1 minute, refuse the narrative, no inner sentences, no outer explanations. Step 3. For 10 minutes, refuse the forecast and the check. No peeking at the symptom, no looking ahead. Step 4. For 1 hour, refuse reassurance. No searches, no solicited promises, no secret tests to see if it is gone. Step 5. Before you sleep, refuse to audit the day. No scoring, no judgment. Don't judge your demonstration day by day. Let maturity bring to light I had a letter from a teacher in Atlanta who kept alarms to check whether fear had returned every hour on the hour, a bell for bondage. She wrote, I turned the alarms into fasting. Each bell became my yielded second and my vow to stop looking. A month later, she said there was no drama to report. The alarms were gone because there was nothing left to check. That is fasting. Not a contest won, a government revealed. In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength, not in inspection and negotiation. Now hear the heart of it, and let it humble you into liberty. Fasting is not punishment. It is permission. It is the gentle, obstinate willingness to let God deal with the appearances without your edits. I am willing to let God deal with the appearances. I do not need to change them to be safe. Say that without bravado, then keep silent. As the mind grows lean from lack of stories, silence becomes natural, and the kind that felt immovable begins to go out. Not by might, not by your perfect sentences, not by your systems of safety, but by my spirit. And as you fast, you will notice something you could not see while you were chewing. The mind stories huddle around attachments, people to please, roles to preserve, approvals to secure, identities to defend. Anxiety stands guard over idols we have not yet named. All right, we will name them. If any man come to me and hate not his father and mother, yea, and his own life also, he cannot be my disciple. We will not become cold. We will become free. Next, we shall see how leaving the clung to self, mother, brother, sister, and the private mind that manages them opens a space where spiritual government, not personal attachment, carries the day. All right. Now we take up that word the Master used to shake us from our chairs. If any man come to me and hate not his father and mother and wife and children, yea, and his own life also, he cannot be my disciple. Do you see that? He is not telling you to abandon your family at the curb. He is telling you to abandon the belief that safety lives in persons, approval, position, or plans. He that loveth father or mother more than me is not worthy of me. More than me, more than the inner eye that governs. When your peace depends on someone's face, someone's text, someone's compliance with your hope, you have placed a God before God, and anxiety is hired as the night watchman for that idol. Let's name the bargain so it stops hiding in our prayers. If they're okay, I'm okay. If I am liked, I am safe. If I can control tomorrow, I can breathe. That is the quiet treaty most of us sign. And then we wonder why the heart patrols the borders every hour. The mind says, guard them, guard your image, guard the future, and call it love. Call it responsibility. It is not love. It is clinging. Love is spiritual recognition, Christ, seeing Christ. Attachment is fear disguised as virtue, self trying to secure itself by managing others and tomorrow. Perfect love casteth out fear, not because it tightens its grip, but because in love there is no gripping left to do. Where love stands as recognition of God in all, nothing remains to protect against God. Now be very honest with me, and I will be gentle and plain. What are you protecting with this anxiety? A reputation you must polish? A version of you that must not be contradicted? A future you have previewed and decided must arrive on time? A person you have sworn to keep from pain as if God were absent from their road? Bring it into daylight. The light will not burn you. It will burn the lie. The Master, when told his mother and brothers were outside, asked, "Who is my mother? And who are my brethren?" And pointing to discipleship, He said, whosoever shall do the will of my Father, the same is my brother and sister and mother. You see, he shifted the axis from human ties to spiritual recognition, not coldness, but order. When order returns, fear is relieved of duty. Surrender, then, is not indifference. It is transfer of government. The government shall be upon his shoulder, not on yours. You cannot bear the weight of keeping everybody alive, pleased, approving, and constantly reassuring you that you are enough. That burden breeds panic. That yoke is not easy. Come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, for my yoke is easy and my burden is light. The lightness is not laziness. It is the end of self-appointment as universal manager. Lay the badge down. I had a letter from a nurse in Portland who confessed she scanned her husband's expression every evening as if his face were her oxygen tank. If he looked tired, she suffocated. If he smiled, she breathed. She called this devotion. One night, she heard our word on fasting and turned it into leaving. For 1 hour after he came home, she refused to read the face's weather. She refused to fish for reassurance. She refused to edit herself into likable shapes. Father, I yield. And she said nothing. She wrote, the click came when I realized I wasn't abandoning him. I was abandoning the bargain that made him my God. Their affection deepened, not by control, but by space for God to be God in both of them. Practice this precisely. When the anxious guard dog barks around a person or a role, pause. Don't rush to lecture yourself into niceness. Don't react to the appearance of disapproval or distance. Ask quietly, what bargain am I enforcing? If it is, they must affirm me so I exist. Release it. Christ is the identity here, not a private self in need of mirrors. If it is, I must guarantee their happiness so I am worthy. Release it. The Lord is their shepherd, not I. Then the prayer you now know, Father, I yield, and the fasting you have learned. No checking the face, no rehearsing the outcome, no building tomorrow. 1 honest second of this is truer than 100 strategic conversations. Love will not diminish under such surrender. It will purify. You will be freer to serve, because service will no longer be a payment on your insurance policy. You will be kinder, because kindness will no longer be a tool to prevent abandonment. You will be braver, because courage will no longer be the price of keeping a role. This is leaving mother, brother, sister, not the persons, but the tyrannies we placed upon them and upon ourselves. And as you leave, you will feel the strange quiet of a new center. It is not vacancy. It is Christ. I live, yet not I, but Christ liveth in me. When identity shifts from the private, threatened self to Christ consciousness, the anxious premise evaporates. I must manage life alone. No, you must not. You could not. And an I you need not. From here, Christ is the only identity. And with that, we are ready to see how mind ceases being the authority and presence becomes the governor of your day. All right? We have come to the pivot that ends the long fatigue of self-management. We stop believing in a selfhood apart from God. The anxious me, the private proprietor who wakes to defend a little plot of peace against the great world. Do you see that this is not your identity? Ye are dead, and your life is hid with Christ in God. Not dead to living, but dead to the private self that must forever calculate, guard, and judge. I live, yet not I, but Christ liveth in me. That is not poetry. That is identity. Christ is the only identity. Christ is not a man 2,000 years ago. Christ is the life of God, recognized as the very essence of your being, one, self, infinite in expression, yet never divided into competing private minds. Now, because we have worshipped thinking as our savior, this will sound like treason at first. Retire my mind from the bench. It is not the judge. It is a fine clerk for errands and arithmetic, but it is not the authority over life. Let this mind be in you, which was also in Christ Jesus. That mind is not brain thought. It is the awareness of I that does not argue with appearances, that does not take sides with fear, that does not run to fix a picture. With Christ as identity, you are no longer obligated to win debates with your own thinking. You do not have to outshout a sensation with a louder sentence. You do not have to balance every what if with 3 it will be okays. You step off the field of argument altogether, because argument presumes 2 powers. There is only one. Use this inner statement, but not as a charm. Use it as yielding. Father, reveal thyself. Let Christ be my consciousness. Say it once and grow still. Let it unseat the private foreman. In him we live and move and have our being. If that is even partly realized, what obligation remains to police every thought? None. You see, thoughts can shout, sensations can rattle, but identity rests elsewhere. And when identity rests in Christ, reaction decreases without your whip. It is not repression. It is displacement. Light does not wrestle darkness. It appears, and darkness has no argument left to make. A young broker wrote, "The panic hits before presentations. I pile up truths and recite them like soldiers. Do you see the freight he loads onto language?" He tried our yielded sentence in the elevator. Father, reveal thyself. Let Christ be my consciousness. And then he shut his mouth. The body still hummed, but something had vacated its throne. He presented with the hum like distant machinery, neither feared nor fondled. He said, it was as if the room belonged to someone else, and I was a guest in an already set piece. Of course, where Christ is identity, rooms, outcomes, audiences, and pulses return to their smallness. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. Liberty is not the absence of sensation. It is the absence of its lordship. So here is your practice in the very hour of testing. The bell rings. Do not consult the private mind. Do not ask it for a verdict on your safety. Offer the inner yielding. Father, reveal thyself. Let Christ be my consciousness. And then be quiet. If the mind wishes to chatter, let it be like rain on a roof you do not repair. If the sensation wishes to march, let it circle without enlistment. Do not enter the case humanly. Do not bargain for calm. Stand in I, and allow the Christ identity to be the only assessor of what is real. We have the mind of Christ, Paul declares, and in that mind there is no court of appeals to panic. Because I know your habit, I add this tenderness and this firmness. You will still want proof quickly. You will still listen for a stopwatch and check the pulse of your progress. Don't. That too is the old identity auditing itself, and it will always find a reason to reopen the case. Be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, not by the timing of your results. Let identity shift and let fruit ripen in its season. We will speak of divine timing next, because it will save you from the weary sin of day-by-day measurement. For now, rest your case in Christ. The anxious narrator is unemployed, and you are not hiring. All right, now we speak of time. because the private mind, having been retired from the bench, will try to come back as an auditor. Is it gone yet? How am I doing? Was today better than yesterday? Do you see that? This is still reaction, still outcome at the center. You have smashed the idol in the temple and then set up a clock where the idol stood, and you swing the censer before it every hour. Which of you by taking thought can add 1 cubit unto his stature? You cannot add a second to your healing by checking, and you can subtract your peace with a single glance at the scorecard. Let maturity bring to light. Fruit does not ripen because you stare at it. The husbandman waiteth for the precious fruit of the earth, and hath long patience for it, and he does not pull at the branches to help God. First the blade, then the ear, after that the full corn in the ear. There is an order hidden from the eye that wants immediate proofs. Let patience have her perfect work, that ye may be perfect and entire, wanting nothing. When you check, you confess lack. When you wait in quietness, you confess sufficiency. In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength, not in inspection, not in charts. Consider Saul of Tarsus. The light struck him, the theology collapsed, the identity shifted, and yet he did not take a platform that afternoon. He withdrew. There were years, yes, years of inward gestation before the outward letters could be born. Do you think you will unlearn a lifetime of self-management in a weekend and call that spirituality? Don't insult the seed. Stand still and let God. If the master let 30 years pass in hiddenness before 3 in public rain, who are we to demand that Tuesday must prove the work? So here is your expectation, plain and merciful. Some days will be quiet, like a lake at first light. Some days will be noisy, like a market at noon. Neither day is verdict. Both are classroom. Noise is not failure. Noise is a bell. When it rings, you already know the practice, Father, I yield, and the fasting, no narratives, no forecasts, no checking. Return to the split second of silence. Return without drama, without apology. Be careful for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known unto God. The thanksgiving is not for a symptom gone. It is for presence realized, already and always. To make it plain, I give you 3 small cases with no fireworks. A violinist in Prague wrote that she woke each day and secretly tuned herself by the question, is the fear back? One morning she forgot to ask. At lunch she remembered and laughed a free laugh because she saw the forgetting was freedom. The absence of monitoring was itself the ripening. The music had been played all morning without a referee. A mother in Nairobi practiced leaving the face of her teenager alone. No scanning for omens, no nightly verdicts of good or bad days. She wrote after 6 weeks, I can't tell you when it changed. I can only tell you that breakfast returned to us as a sacrament instead of a strategy. The house did not become a monastery. It became a place where God had room to be God, and the boy, room to be a boy. A man with a fretful heart in Toronto used to tap his pulse every hour and pronounce sentence. He replaced each tap with a yielded second and said nothing. After a month he wrote, not with triumph, but with calm. I was halfway through a day when I realized I didn't know where the watch was. He had not won a contest. He had misplaced the monitor. That is maturity coming to light. Do not judge your demonstration day by day. Do not read the weather of sensation as the climate of your soul. Healing ripens on divine timing. And the moment you stop measuring, you often find you're already freer. Let God have its perfect work. If today is loud, answer the bell and be still. If tomorrow is quiet, do not build a shrine to the quiet. In both, abide. Abide in me, and I in you. Abiding is not counting. Abiding is letting the vine do what vines do, until fruit hangs where you once kept the clock. All right. We take this out of the study and into the street. 3 scenes, 1 principle, 1 practice. No drama, no heroics. Just the middle path, where we neither fear, love, nor hate any appearance. And we refuse to turn to God to fix pictures while still worshiping the picture. Judge not according to the appearance, but judge righteous judgment. Righteous judgment is I at the center, not outcome. First, the panic moment. The body surges. The chest drums. The edges of the room blur. The mind rushes to name, to forecast, to plead. That is the bell. Do not enter the case humanly. Do not beg God to remove a sensation that is praying to an idol about an idol. Recognize the impersonal face of it. This is a universal belief in fear of life, fear of body, fear of lack, wearing your name tag. It is not you. Christ is the only identity here. Now the practice, pause. Let the shoulders be without a commander. Father, I yield, and then say nothing. 1 honest second. No naming. No predicting. No bargaining. Peace be still, not shouted at the body, but heard as governance within you. If you are standing, keep standing. If you are seated, keep seated. Do not add a ritual to bribe the wave. Fasting begins at once. No narrative. No check. No forecast. Let the wave come and go without your surfboard of words. I can of mine own self do nothing, and in that consent, the private manager is dismissed. Often the sensation will keep moving like weather, but the authority has left the storm. Be not afraid. It is I. That is enough. Second, the relationship strain. A message arrives sharp as flint. An old grievance is kindled. The mind mobilizes its lawyers. You want to take sides. Don't. Principle over personalities. Do you see that? You are not dealing with a good side and a bad side. Not even the side that hired you, married you, or shares your table. Christ is the identity of all present, recognized or not. Never enter the case humanly. No managing, no silent tactics, no rehearsed verdicts. Pause. Father, I yield, and then silence. Withdraw your appetite to win or be seen as right. Withdraw your fear of being unloved. Fast the narrative. Fast the forecast of how this will end. Fast the little tests to measure their warmth. A soft answer turneth away wrath, but let the answer be born of the silence, not of your strategy. If words rise, let them be simple and clean. Yes, no, I'm sorry, I hear you. If delay rises, let there be delay. If separation is required for spiritual order, let God have its perfect work. Do not call it failure. In order, love is freer to serve because it no longer pays premiums on your insurance of being needed and approved. Third, the health scare. A symptom appears. A report arrives. The mind bows before a new pharaoh. Don't worship the symptom. Don't hate it. Don't love it. See it as an appearance in a universe that to the senses is full of such claims. This has nothing to do with this person. This is a universal belief in life apart from God and law apart from one. There is only one power. Now the practice is still the same. Pause. Father, I yield and then silence. Fasting commences no internet oracles, no ritual checking, no grim scanning for omens. If there is an appointment, go without drama. If there is rest, rest without auditing the minutes. Neither fear, love, nor hate any appearance. In him we live and move and have our being. In that realization, you do not argue with pictures. You let the light be light until the picture has nothing left to say. Do you see the sameness? 3 rooms, 1 eye, panic people, prognosis, different costumes for the same theater of reaction. Refuse reaction. Depersonalize the claim. Enter silence until God contact governs. Then let the government be upon his shoulder, not yours. Don't measure your success by how quickly the scene quiets. Measure nothing. Let patience have her perfect work. You are learning not to use God. You are yielding to God. So here is the replacement prayer we have been circling toward, and it is as brief as breath. Father, I yield. That is the whole prayer. Then the sacred discipline, say nothing. Fast the narrative. Fast the forecast. Fast the search for proof. 1 honest second. 2, if they come, none counted. Return as often as the bell rings, without drama, without apology. Abide in me, and I in you. Abiding is letting God be God where your management used to sit. All right, take this into your next hour. When the claim knocks, panic, fracture, symptom, refuse to react, depersonalize the face, and step into the second of silence until the click comes. Be still. Let I be I. The Lord shall fight for you, and ye shall hold your peace. Hold it. That is your part. Let the rest be God's. All right, we complete it now, and it is blessedly simple. The replacement is not take it away, not fix this picture, not even prove thyself by making me feel better. The replacement is surrender to presence, without project and without timetable. Father, I yield. Or, if words must come once, let them be these and only these. Father, reveal thyself. Let thy will be done. I rest in thee. That is all. Then the sacred discipline begins. Say nothing. Be still and know that I am God. Not know because a pulse slowed or a room calmed. Know because I is I. Whether or not a breeze moves on your skin. Do you see the subtlety we are protecting? The human mind wants to turn even this prayer into a lever to move conditions, which keeps the condition on the throne. Don't. Never desire to change appearances. Never enter the case humanly. Don't react to the appearances. Judge not according to the appearance, but judge righteous judgment. Righteous judgment is not an opinion. It is God contact. It is the inner click when the argument stops, because there is nothing left to defend and nothing left to sell to God. So the instruction is exact. Offer the yielding once, quietly. Thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Then stop talking inwardly. Stop arguing for relief. Stop testing your temperature of peace as proof of God. If the mind tries to resume its debate, let it speak to itself while you do not sign its papers. If the body hums, let it hum like machinery in the next building. I can of mine own self do nothing. And because that is true, you are released from performance anxiety in prayer. Prayer is not performance. Prayer is contact, and nobody by taking thought can contact God. But in a split second of silence, God announces God's self without words. You may say, but what shall I do with the picture? Nothing. Don't hate it. Don't love it. Don't fix it. Let it stand in the light until it cannot stand at all. There is only one power. Let that one power be itself without your edits. This kind goeth not out but by prayer and fasting. We have named fasting. Here is its heart. Withdraw the narrative. Withdraw the forecast. Withdraw the self-protection. And especially withdraw the attempt to feel different as payment for believing. In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength. Now wait for the click. Don't strain for it. Don't put your ear to the door. Don't count seconds. Sit, stand, walk, whatever the hour gives, and abide. Abide in me, and I in you. Abiding is not clenching. Abiding is residence. When the click comes, you will know, not by fireworks, not by a trumpet, but by the absence of argument. It may be a feather fall of peace. It may be a simple lack of interest in the fear that moments ago filled the horizon. Let it be small. Let it be sufficient. The government shall be upon his shoulder. Do not slant the scale with your hurry. Carry these injunctions like a quiet law. Never desire to change appearances. Never enter the case humanly. Don't react to the appearances. And the positive command that breaks them open, be still. Let Christ's will be done on earth as it is in heaven. If a sentence must return to your lips, let it be the same small door each time. Father, I yield. And then keep the fast from words and proofs. Return without drama, without apology, 100 times a day, if the bell rings 100 times. Persistence without strain, that is the way. Not grimness, not heroics. The vine does not strain to be a vine. And now I leave you with patience, not postponement. The practice is simple, but not childish. It asks for honesty and the courage to stop talking when talking has been your shield. Let patience have her perfect work. Don't judge your demonstration day by day. Let maturity bring to light. In the quiet, God becomes your consciousness. Not in theory, but in governance. And when God is your consciousness, the anxious appearance, having lost its audience and its altar, fades of itself. The Lord shall fight for you, and ye shall hold your peace. Hold it. That is your part. Let the rest be God's.